Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Doug Show. Whoops. Actually, that splashed a little bit farther than I thought it was going to. I brought a beer into the recording booth, which is actually just my closet here. And I think I may have stained one of my shirts. So that's too bad. In this episode, I am going to go off on a bit of a tangent. So one of the reasons why I wanted to start the podcast is I felt like it gave me a little bit more of a platform to do just random stuff. Now, basically, I have a blog and a YouTube channel, and really I could do whatever I wanted on those platforms as well. And I guess on YouTube, I kind of do anyway. Sometimes I have like some travel stories, some vlogs, just some random stuff that is unrelated to marketing. And I think I can, do that on YouTube. It's totally fine. A few people watch it anyway, and it's okay. It's not a bad thing to do. But at the same time, I felt pressure, every now and then someone maybe would leave a comment that they didn't care about, the vlog content. They didn't care about the other stuff. They just wanted to get some, marketing information. And I could sort of appreciate that. And at the same time, I realize it doesn't matter, what they want. In many ways, it kind of matters what I want, because I need to, enjoy the content that I'm producing and that sort of thing. So one of the things I wanted to do is talk about travel stuff and just personal things and how I ended up where I am right now, just in a existential kind of way, and also in a physical way. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. So I am in my closet today recording because the acoustics are pretty smooth in here. But I'm also in the Boulder, Colorado area. And I want to tell you about like my history with Colorado, my history with the Rocky Mountains, and just kind of being further out west than, the southeast of the U.S., which is where I'm from, the Atlanta, Georgia area. So I'm going to talk about Colorado and the first time that I made it out here. So if you're brand new to the show and this is your first episode, normally I talk about like affiliate marketing and have success stories from people that are doing a side hustle. Sometimes I interview folks like digital nomads or business owners or entrepreneurs or just random people sometimes. Again, I feel like I have some freedom with the old Doug Show here, and I could do whatever I want. I don't have any advertisers or anything like that. So I could just kind of talk about whatever. Again, that's what we're doing today. But if today's your first episode, if this is your first episode, have a listen to some of the other episodes where you have your interest piqued. So if you are looking for inspiration, check out some of those success stories. If you are thinking about doing like some traveling, like maybe quitting your job or taking a year off, doing a mini retirement or something like that, then check out some of those digital nomad stories. So there's a wide range of, episodes out there and topics, and I'm sure you'll probably find something interesting, and stick around for this one if you want. So let's go back. Let's go back to the year, let's go back further than I intended to. So let's go back to like the year 1999. And if people are old enough, you'll remember, some of the great bands out at that time, like maybe like Sugar Ray and like Live. And I can't think of any like others off the top of my head, but I did love Stone Temple Pilots back in the day. I saw them a bunch. Black Crows, and really it doesn't begin with music, but I was just placing myself like driving in a car, because part of the reason I eventually made it out to Colorado and I'm here now is I actually went on a road trip with my girlfriend at the time with her family, right? So they had family out in the Montana area, and they went to Yellowstone every few years and went through Wyoming and just like went on a multi-week road trip. And I was fortunate enough to be invited and go on the road trip. So that was cool. And that was my first time out west. Again, I think that was like 99 or 2000, something like that. It's been a while. I can't quite remember. So I thought it was awesome. Like, I kept hearing about Big Sky Country and how great Montana was. And we like hung out with some family, her family, of course, in the Montana area, like eastern Montana. And she has family like throughout like the high plains area, I guess. And I think we made it over to Billings, right? And we visited some folks there. We went to Bozeman, in fact, where my wife and I eventually lived for a few years there. And then and again, just want to clarify, the road trip that I went on in 2000, that is a person that I dated in, those couple years there, not the person I married. So different person, just to clarify. So, and my wife doesn't listen to these, so I feel like I could share it with just, it's just us chatting right now. So anyway, we checked out Yellowstone, super cool. We went through the Grand Tetons. I thought the Rocky Mountains were just amazing. I really enjoyed like being in a less populated area, like less traffic. People were kind of on a different speed. And I was like, this is cool. I really enjoy this. We didn't go into Colorado. All right. So we didn't go into Colorado on that road trip. We just like zipped back to the southeast, and that was that. Well, fast forward a little bit. It didn't work out. That girl and I broke up. It's a little bit messy, a little bit messy. I was sad, that was like my first serious girlfriend. And I was sad for a little while. And it was one of those breakups that like lasts for months, right? Sucks. So I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. And if you're in that situation right now, don't worry. It gets better. All right. So you'll pull through, go to the gym, work out, get some hobbies, do whatever, and you'll be fine. All right. So it'll be cool. Just keep pushing forward and do your thing. Now, I was still sad, like coming around to like the next summer. And I had some friends that I met at the gym, actually, speaking of working out. So I met a couple ladies at the gym who like we weren't romantically involved or anything like that. We were just friends, and we would hang out. We'd work out together sometimes, go on runs, and that sort of thing. Sometimes we'd soak in the hot tub, whatever. So one of them, I believe her name was Kristen. I don't keep in touch with her or anything like that, but she told me about this website. I think it was called Coolworks. If I remember right, I should check that. Coolworks.com. And she was like, oh yeah, like I went and worked out west a couple years ago. It was great. I was going through like this similar situation where she was going through a breakup and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, it was great because I was just out of the normal environment and so on. And I thought, well, that's great. I think I want to try that. I applied for a few jobs, including one in the Rocky Mountain National Park, which is just outside Estes Park, Colorado. And I also applied to Yellowstone and a few, I'm not sure if I applied to a specific like lodge or if I just applied in general, but I got job offers and interviews from both the Yellowstone vendor, whoever was the vendor then, I think it was Xanterra. And then I also got an interview and an offer for the Rocky Mountain National Park. So that was cool. Like both of them are fantastic. And I decided on the Rocky Mountain National Park mainly because the manager that I interviewed with, he broke it down this way. He was like, Doug, see, you're from the Atlanta area and you probably like live in the suburbs and you probably enjoy that kind of stuff. And he was like, in Yellowstone, you're going to be pretty far away from like all the suburban stuff that you're used to. And you're just kind of like out there in the middle of nowhere. And funny enough, the closest place to, depending on where you are in Yellowstone, the closest place to go to like a reasonable sized city, generally that's going to be Bozeman. So funny that I ended up living there for a while. But anyway, this manager from the Rocky Mountain National Park told me I'll probably enjoy the Rocky Mountain National Park a little bit better. He was like, you're going to be in Estes Park. That's where our dorms are. Everybody hangs out there together, and you're like 45 minutes from Boulder, Colorado. There's like a, Walmart. There's a Target down there. There's the normal things that you are used to, and the airport's a little closer in Denver, and so on. And I was like, you know what? Like, that does make sense to me. I'm going to do the Rocky Mountain National Park. So in 2002, like, school finished up. I guess I was 2002. That was like I spent a lot of time in college. I was in what they called the co-op program. So I would like work for a semester and then take a semester of school and then work for a semester. So it took a little bit longer, and I had to retake a couple classes as well. Anyway, the point is, I finished up that summer 2002, finished up the spring semester or whatever, and then I was on my way. In fact, that was the first time I drove partially across the country. A lot of people may think Colorado is, quote, out west, and sure, it's further west, but really Colorado is like kind of in the middle of the country. So when you look at a map and you like, I guess, look at distances, Colorado is mostly in the middle. So that said, I drove out, and it was like one of my first solo road trips, at least of that length. And it was just cool heading out there. It was exciting. I was going to this unknown place. I didn't know anyone. I had never been in Colorado before. I'd never seen like Denver. I never saw like Boulder or anything before I drove up. And it's crazy now that I'm thinking about it. It's just, I didn't know shit. I had not seen it. I was just like, this seems like a okay place, and I'm working in a national park. Should be all right. Let's do this. So, I packed up the stuff in my car, drove out. And funny thing, like, it was cloudy for like the first 2.5 days I was in Colorado. So I had mapped it out and planned my trip so that I stayed in downtown Denver just so I could like check things out. So I stayed at, I think it was like the Comfort Inn, something economical, the Comfort Inn in like downtown. So I remember like driving up into downtown Denver, seeing like Coors Field. I think, yeah. Coors Field, just driving up, seeing it, and then finding the hotel. I was like, oh, there's a Comfort Inn or something like that. Just checked in, and it was cloudy. I couldn't see any mountains or anything like that. So I walked around, got some food or whatever, and then the next day, the plan was to get up, head down to Boulder, and like drive through Boulder on the way to Estes Park. And got to Boulder, and I was like, oh, I'm going to be able to see the mountains. No mountains, right? So if people are familiar with the Boulder area, the Flatirons, it's like an iconic view, right? Like if you're like looking it up, like that's what you're going to see, right? These really nice, they're sort of reddish colored, but it's flat rock with a little bit of iron in there, hence Flatiron. And the iron, when it oxidizes, makes it, turn a little red. So anyway, you couldn't see those, and you couldn't see any of the very tall Rocky Mountains that are typically behind the Flatirons, which you normally can see, like 14,000 feet plus, right? Couldn't see those either. So it was just cloudy. And so I kept driving, made it down to Estes. Again, still cloudy. If people know Estes Park, you know that typically when you drive into town, it's like breathtaking. You got a lake down there. There's like a little valley. There's a, Long's Peak, a 14,000 foot mountain in the distance, and a bunch of like 13,000 foot. It's just beautiful, right? Well, I couldn't see any of that. I saw like a couple of clouds, and it was foggy, right? So, but I go and check in and everything and hang out. And finally, a couple days later, I'll get to the point. A couple days later, I finally saw the mountains. It was really cool. It was fantastic. And it was fun to work there. So one or two interesting things. So I was one of the older folks there, because as I mentioned, I was in college for a little while. So I think at that point I was like 22, 23. And I had been like college aged for, 4 years. So people, some people like got out of high school and then they went to work there before they started college. So they were like 18, like they had just turned 18. There were some other folks that were like in the middle of college. There were some more slightly mature students like myself. And then there were like retirees. So people that either retired early or just they retired and they like to travel around and check out the national parks. And they were there too. So it was an interesting spread of folks, either college age or right around that age. And then some retirees. And there were a couple like, middle-aged folks, but those were more unusual, I would say. So, it was cool because a lot of people were in not the exact same situation, but people were like, hey, I want to do something different. I want to be outside of my normal environment. And 90% of the people didn't know anyone else either. So it was like summer camp, except most of us were able to drink. There was actually a liquor store across the street. So it was fun. I mean, it was super fun in so many ways. We didn't get paid much. The facilities, like the dorms, we called it the compound that we stayed in. It was like an old motel. So it was like the doors open to the outside, and it was in a little bit of, I would say, rough shape, but it did the job. And you had typically like one roommate, and it was fine. Since I was one of the more mature college students, and I guess I had a decent amount of like actual work experience. And yeah, I mean, I spoke well then, and I was respectful. I show up on time, all the normal shit, right? So I was a supervisor. I worked in the snack bar up there at near the Alpine Visitor Center. It's called Trail Ridge Store. People could look all this stuff up. It still exists out there. So basically, I was a supervisor in the, in the snack bar back there. Didn't have to do too much, just tell people like when to take breaks, maybe help out with the schedule a little bit, and, keep order, that sort of thing. But I also got to drive the van up. So we stayed in Estes Park, but it's about 24 miles of driving to get to Trail Ridge Store. And I'm trying to remember, there were, I don't remember how many people would work at the store per day, but there were two 15-passenger vans that went up per shift. And depending on when people worked, they would, come down or go up at different times. But I got to drive one of those vans. So this is a cool thing that may not be obvious right off, right at the beginning here, but like this is like one of the iconic drives, right, in the US. It's supposed to be one of the greatest drives in the world, depending on who you talk to. But it's like the highest continuous highway in the world, right? So that's like supposed to be one of the claims to fame for Trail Ridge Road there. And it goes up over 12,000 feet, and it's continuous, right? So it goes over 12,000 feet, and then it continues on, goes over from Estes Park to Grand Lake. And it's supposed to be beautiful, right? It is beautiful. It's a fantastic drive. I mean, you're driving through the Alpine areas, tundra and all that stuff. Very cool drive. And because I worked up there, and then I also was a driver, I made that drive probably over 100 times. And the thing is, I haven't mentioned it yet, but I liked working there so much, and I like Estes Park so much that I worked there the next summer too. So I drove both summers. It was fantastic, super cool. And I mean, you kind of get used to making the drive, but at the same time, it was always unique, always interesting, and easily over 100 times up and down I've done the drive. And I got paid to do it. I mean, I got paid like $5.50 or $5.75 per hour to do it, but I got paid to do the drive. And it was these 15-passenger vans. So, I had had a crew in the van there, and I just had to get them up and down safely. Super fun. Really enjoyed it. Well, since I came back, like in 2003, obviously, you can imagine I really liked the area, and I liked Boulder, and I liked just Colorado in general. And in fact, I was going to say I ended up like going down to Boulder every, I would say like 2 to 3 weeks or something like that, just to go to the stores or go shopping. And Boulder had this sort of like cool like reputation, I guess. I don't know 100% why, other than like it's sort of I don't know if I want to say bohemian. There's a hippie culture here, I would say for sure. And I guess, I have a wide range of listeners out there. So I know there's some older people, and there's some younger people. There's some people who I probably lost at this point and aren't listening anymore. But I was going to say, you may remember some hippie folks that made it out to Boulder. And yeah, there's like a sort of an interesting hippie culture out here, and also very entrepreneurial now that I've spent a lot of time out here over the years. And just seeing like all the tech companies and interesting people that are here in Boulder, it's super interesting. So, couple other things to note. One, after working out here for the 2 summers, I came back every single year. I think, except for like 2016 or something like that. And for people that know me and have followed for a little while, I was in Georgia. I lived in Georgia, in the Atlanta area, until around 2015, early 2015. And then my wife and I sort of hit the road, and we were traveling a bit out to Montana. And then we actually just stayed in Montana. We moved to Bozeman. And I believe Bozeman and Boulder, very similar. Now, a couple big differences, the size and the proximity to like other large populations. I mean, the fact is Montana has a pretty small population, even though it's like the 4th largest state. So Bozeman had like 45,000 people or so. It's growing fast, but not nearly as many people as like this, really Denver, Colorado, like sprawling area, metropolis. Like there's a lot of people here, for like a few million or something. I'm not sure the exact population. I think it's about 3 million or so in this vicinity. But Boulder is very similar in a lot of ways to Bozeman. It's a lot of the same kind of folks, just in a general, like people like outdoors, right? They like to do outdoor activities, a lot of winter sports, people are into. And the other big sort of similarity is you got like mountains close by, like in the background is really what I mean. Because in Bozeman, we had the Bridgers. Like I could like see it out my window, could walk outside. The Bridgers are a presence. There's a lot of mountains all around actually in Bozeman. And here in Boulder, you have mountains. From our vantage here in the Longmont area, you can see the Flatirons out towards the sort of southwest. And then there's just mountains to the west. Now the east and to the south is pretty flat. It's like, it's plains generally. But yeah, it's cool to have mountains around and just have them close by. Very cool. I really enjoy that, and being able to, just walk outside and see the mountains. Where in Atlanta, there's trees. Like there's just trees everywhere. You can't see anything. And I'm sure if you're in Atlanta, like let me know if you disagree. But it's just like trees everywhere. You can't see anything. And some people love the trees. Trees are cool. There's also a ton of pollen. Luckily, I don't have allergies, but some people have major issues with all the pollen down in the southeast, just in a general way. Now, going back to the Bozeman Boulder sort of compare and contrast, one huge difference is it's a lot warmer down here in Colorado. today, when I'm recording this, is actually the first day of summer. So just that'll date this just a bit, but it's the first day of summer, like June 21st. And yesterday, I saw a bunch of my friends in Bozeman. They were like on their Instagram stories. They were like sharing how it was snowing, right? It was snowing the day before the first day of summer, right? So it's the middle of June and it's snowing in Bozeman. And it could snow in any month. I think in the last couple of years when we were up there, it snowed in like July, right? It's crazy, right? Like in the South, it's just so hot, you can't even imagine it. And then funny enough, yesterday when it was snowing up in Bozeman, here in Longmont, it was a little bit warm. It was actually like 86 and very sunny. And I was like, I can't believe it's snowing up in Bozeman. That's just so crazy. And I think like in the higher elevations, like in the hills, the foothills and the mountains in the Bozeman area, I think they got like pretty significant amount of snow, like 6 inches, something like that. Or at least that's what the predictions were. So anyway, it's a little bit warmer down here. I actually like cold weather, but like right now, I'm sort of appreciating the slightly warmer weather down here in Colorado. So anyway, this, I think that's about all I wanted to mention. Just like, I always like this Colorado area. And one quick digression, when I did graduate from college in it was like the winter of 2003, I interviewed a few times with a company called EchoStar. I didn't get the job. That's the punchline. I did not get the job, but EchoStar had a big office out here, and I think it was sort of like the South Denver area, sort of like towards Colorado Springs. I kind of remember it being out that way, but I did well enough. They actually flew me out for a weekend. It was like the recruiting weekend. Went through like a series of interviews. One guy basically offered me a job, and then eventually, like I never got the offer. They just said thanks, but no thanks. And then I ended up getting a job down in Atlanta with Accenture. So that was fine. I mean, that was a good job. Learned a lot there and all that. But I almost ended up out here in like 2004, but it didn't work out, and that was fine. You know, I guess in my head, it was always a possibility. It was always like, hey, it would be cool to like move out here. And like I said, we ended up in Bozeman, which I think in many ways is maybe a little bit better. You know, there's less people, less traffic, all that kind of stuff, but a little bit colder. And yeah, and for the people that don't know, we moved down here because my wife got a great job offer, and that is one of the big, like, sort of downsides in Bozeman. There aren't that many jobs. There's like not as many companies there. And I know for people that are from the area up there or have been there a while, I realize in Bozeman it has been growing a lot. And I know that there are more jobs than there used to be. But compared to like a big city with like over 1 million people, like it's just hard to compete with the available jobs and all that kind of stuff. So obviously it's a double-edged sword in so many ways. Like if you have all those jobs and all the people, right, you're going to have traffic, you're going to have more pollution. There's just going to be more of the things that go along with a larger population. And then, you know, same deal in the other direction where, you know, you don't have traffic. There's not that many jobs. There's not as many people. It doesn't feel as crowded. So anyway, I just wanted to let people know about that backstory. And I really do I like the mountains. I do appreciate the mountains a lot. I love seeing the snow-capped peaks, and it's amazing every time. So I definitely remember like doing those drives like up to Trail Ridge Store and all that. And it always looked amazing. And I was like, man, I can't believe I'm making this drive again. It's fantastic. And the reason why I wanted to record this episode, we drove up last weekend because it's only like 45 minutes from our door to like drive over to Estes Park. And then it's another, 30, 40 minutes to get up to Trail Ridge Store. So amazing to me, because I would take like vacations just to go hang out there for like one afternoon where I, spent days traveling and all that stuff. And now I live like a couple hours away. Super cool. So anyway, everybody have a great day. And, if you like these kind of episodes, do send me a message, because it's hard to tell sometimes what people enjoy. So if you like these sort of like personal stories, let me know. Send me an email, feedback@doug.show. And we'll catch you next time. Everybody have a great day. Have a great weekend. Have a beer yourself. If you're of age, have a beer yourself. And cheers. Thank you so much for listening to The Doug Show. I really do appreciate it. I mean, I'm just sitting here on my computer recording stuff, and you're listening to it, and I think that's awesome. If you enjoy the show and you know someone who maybe would be interested in it, please let them know. I think it would be fantastic if you help spread the word. If you are not signed up for the Niche Site Project email list, well, you're in luck. All you have to do is go to nichesiteproject.com, click the green button, enter your name and email address, and I'll send you a bunch of cool stuff about affiliate marketing, productivity, including all my templates. If you happen to not be subscribed to this podcast, please do subscribe, and don't forget, I welcome your questions. So you could send your emails to feedback@doug.show. I got that really cool domain, doug.show, that's it. So feedback@doug.show. Or I'm going to leave my voicemail number in the show notes. So all you have to do is give me a buzz, leave a voicemail, and then I'll potentially put you on the air. So looking forward to it, and we'll catch you next time.